Hey everyone, Amitabha Metta Love. I just wanted to make a really quick video for you about karma and rebirth, or in Pali it's pronounced kama, and rebirth as the Buddha taught it. Now, when we talk about rebirth, a lot of people believe in reincarnation, and that there is some type of essence or soul that reincarnates from lifetime to lifetime, and it's who you are, and it's your nature, and that's who you really are. Or that there's an oversoul, like Emerson talks about, and that like the hand is like the oversoul, or like God, and then the fingers are like the individual people. And what I would like to share is what the Buddha taught. Now, I'd have to find some sutta references, and I will, and I'll post some below. But this is just my way of explaining, what rebirth is, from the teachings of the Buddha and from my own realizations. So, not realizations, from my own contemplations, because I haven't experienced, I can't consciously recall a rebirth. This is when you really understand it, from what the Buddha says, is when you really understand, when you get to a level in your meditation, when you can see your past lives. And then you see that you've been toiling again and again in an ocean of tears, and there's a sutta called Tears, and it basically says, how long have we been born and died and reborn again? How many tears? He asks the monks. He says, how many tears have you shed in countless lifetimes? And he says that the tears you've shed in countless lifetimes are greater than all of the waters of all the oceans on earth. So if you think about that, if I were to count the tears in my lifetime, I had a little cry last night. It's just the thoughts about my dad passing for a year, and I got sad. I would say maybe I could fill a pot, maybe a half of a pot of tears, like a small pot, or maybe a cup of tears for my whole lifetime, maybe 2 cups. So if you talk about the waters of the entire ocean, that's a lot of tears, that's a lot of sadness. And there's some joys there, but if you really look at your life, you realize that there's a lot of wanting, a lot of craving, and most happiness is conditioned. It's a prerequisite upon the prerequisite is conditions. It's other thoughts, it's other people, it's getting a job, it's having a relationship, it's everything going the way you'd like it to go. So back to rebirth. So the thing that came to mind today was that, don't mind my sinks backing up from the washing machine, it'll be done in a second. But the thing that came to mind today is a dandelion. And you think about a dandelion grows and then it has a flower. And that dandelion has a root, so it has a cause. And it has a flower, and it's a beautiful flower. There you go. So this dandelion has this is my little lotus origami in me. So this dandelion has a flower. And eventually the flower turns to seed, and then the environment blows the seed around, and then the seed falls on the earth and perhaps grows again and becomes another dandelion. But you wouldn't say that dandelion is the same dandelion, that there's some type of soul or anything transferring from the lifetime of this dandelion to the lifetime of another dandelion, you'd say that the dandelion somehow caused that dandelion by its being, but it wasn't really, it's not the same dandelion. It's a totally different dandelion. It might have some genetic components. It might have some similarities. It might have some traits of that original dandelion, but it's not the same dandelion. And so too is rebirth. It's not this reincarnation necessarily. It's not this soul traveling from lifetime to lifetime. Some memories may come along. Some traits may come along. Some preferences may come along. But it's not necessarily the same being transferring from one body to the next. It's the cause. This lifetime is the cause for an additional lifetime. And the Buddha taught that that cause is craving and clinging to existence. So freedom from existence, from freedom from rebirth, is the end goal of Buddhism. It's complete liberation and happiness. And the two delusional views are that of annihilationism and immortality, that we die completely at the end of this lifetime and that we live on forever. So the middle way, the Buddha taught the middle way, and people should be really careful about the middle way, and because people just kind of use it for everything. They say, well, everything in moderation. That's not the middle way. You have to really reference what he said, and not take it out of context and make it serve your own ideas. So the middle way is seeing things as they are and not getting caught up in views. The middle way is the path between sensual indulgence and self-mortification. So there are a lot of ascetics still to this day, and definitely in the Buddhist time. The Buddha did it himself before he realized enlightenment. He would stand on one foot for days. He would only eat a single grain of rice. Putting yourself through extreme torture. And the thought of that was the Brahmins of the time believed that if you could cause enough suffering to the body, that the spirit would be freed. And the Buddha found that didn't work. He did it for 6 years, and he realized that it's the middle way. And the analogy was that when he realized that, like a guitar string, they had different instruments in that time. If the string was too loose, it won't play. But if the string's too tight, it'll snap and it still won't play. You have to have it just right. And that's what the middle way is. So extreme self-mortification is not the way, because it causes too much pain. What he discovered is that you need pleasure, but it's not worldly pleasure. It's not sensual pleasure. It's not pleasure that you can get from thoughts, from contact with people, from physical, wonderful, pleasant sensations. It's the spiritual pleasure that comes from transcendence of the mind, and that comes from concentration, equanimity, loving kindness, compassion. That's the kind of joy we should pursue, not worldly joy. You can enjoy worldly pleasant sensations, but he really taught to see all phenomena that arise through the senses as a cancer, as something to be let go, completely discarded, disbanded. Because when you can let everything go, you'll find that You have the most joy in your life when you have a singular experience. When you're constant. Sorry, I'm a little bit stuffed up this morning. I usually am in the mornings, but anyways, when you have a singular experience is when you're most joyful. So too, when you can have no experience, there is even more joy. So the Buddha taught about the 5 aggregates, and then I'll wrap up this video. There's the body, feeling, perception and memory, mental formations and fabrications, anything formed in the mind, and sense consciousness. So the body is, he taught, these are the 5 clinging aggregates. The aggregates that we believe are self. Aggregate is something that's together. So like my hand is an aggregate. These fingers are the aggregates of my hand. So he taught that the body is an aggregate because it's come together with the elements from prior causes, from my mother, from the elements. It's sustained through conditions. I have to eat, I have to exercise it, I have to clean it. And so it's truly not self. There's nothing to be found in self because it's transforming daily, certainly yearly, certainly from decade to decade. I've grown older, I've got some gray hairs. Look, in my beard. They weren't there before. The body's aging. I don't have control over it. I can eat healthfully and I can slow down the process somewhat, or I can accelerate it by eating poorly, or abusing substances, or smoking, or eating unhealthy foods. So the body is not mine, and I can't control it. So it's not self. In the Anatta Lakkhana Sutta, the Buddha says, if body were self, you would be able to say, body be thus, and it would listen to your command, but it doesn't. And so, the feeling is the same way. Feeling it's dependent upon contact. You can't have feeling unless there's contact. Feeling just doesn't arise by itself. It's not innate. Feeling is dependent upon having a body. If you get a phone call from somebody you love, you have a pleasant feeling. Or if you think about somebody you love, it's a pleasant feeling. Or somebody touches your skin in a pleasant way, or the breeze in a pleasant way, or you have a pleasant thought, or a pleasant smell, you have a pleasant feeling. And if there's an unpleasant person that you dislike comes in your mind, or you have a negative thought or a sad thought, you have an unpleasant feeling. And then we react based on those feelings. So feelings are conditioned, so they're not self. So perceptions, this is liking and disliking. Memories are fallible. The science shows that as soon as we create a memory, upon the creation of it, it becomes self-serving. This is the latest neuroscience. So every time you recall it, it changes. The memory changes to become more and more self-serving, to maintain this delusional process, to keep you safe. So the brain is always doing things to keep you safe, and it changes your memories. So memory and perception, whether you like things or don't like things. I mean, hey, have you ever liked a certain or disliked a certain food? I mean, I hated green beans when I was a kid. I like them now. I still don't like tomatoes. But this shows that perceptions can change. So anything that can change is not self. It's impermanent. It's anicca. So then we have mental formations. So anything that forms in the mind, you'll notice that thoughts they form in the mind and they arise without will 99% of the time. They're pleasant or they're unpleasant. They're like the wind or the leaves blowing in the wind. You don't really choose them. They just blow wherever they blow, and that those leaves blow due to the conditions of the wind and whichever way the wind's going. So thoughts are are like that. They blow around due to the past conditions. So past thoughts, past memories, past perceptions, the body and feeling. So as we have thoughts, we realize that they also cannot be ourself, because we can create a thought, we can have a conscious thought, but that thought was created due to a decision, and then you had the thought. It's not innate. It's not a static and solid entity. A thought is malleable. You can change it. It'll disappear. It arises on its own. You don't control it. And for the most part, thoughts cause suffering, because if you look at your thoughts, you realize that most of them are negative. It takes a lot of work to have positive thoughts. Mental formations and thoughts, everything fabricated in the mind is subject to conditioning, is caused by conditioning, so it's not self. And then finally, sense consciousness. Consciousness, period, is conditioned. If you look at dependent origination, the Buddha teaches that consciousness is conditioned by ignorance. So it's not without condition either. And certainly the senses, sense consciousness. So taste is conditioned by flavors, by like molecular tastes. So smell is the sense of smell is conditioned by aromas. Sight is conditioned by light, touch by contact, hearing by sounds. So these are all conditioned. There is no consciousness before the contact with that object. And so the consciousness that we have and mental formations, the mind is a consciousness as well, and it's conditioned upon previous mental moments. So a little bit about the 5 aggregates. I just really wanted to share about this dandelion and this concept, this idea that not to be too attached to life. I mean, I was just sitting in meditation. I had a little cry last night. And I wasn't really attached to my dad. When I was younger, I was, but I didn't even like him. As I got older, my dad, he did a lot of bad things. I'm sure there's good things he did too, but he did a lot of bad things, and so I didn't have very many reasons. And he didn't call us. He didn't make an effort to be in our lives, even though we did. So I had a lot of pain surrounding my dad. And yet, when I thought about that he's been gone for a year, when he passed last year, it was really traumatic to me, and I wasn't expecting it at all. I got really blindsided, really badly. And so from time to time, I think about him, and I don't even know that I miss him, to be honest. I'm just being honest, but I guess it's your mortality. So I don't know if I remember my point now, but the fact is, I'm going off point, and I apologize. So that you see how the mind gets drawn into emotional content. So my mood is a little bit more somber now that I started thinking about those types of thoughts. And so you can see that it was conditioned by those thoughts. So I had those thoughts, and now my mood's a little bit changed. So the most important thing to realize is that, we all think we have the answers. And we all grab onto ideas, thoughts, perceptions, mental formations, beliefs. But there's only really freedom when we can free ourselves from views. When we can free ourselves from the view of annihilationism, or immortality, when we can free ourselves from the views of liking and disliking and apathy, neutral thoughts, when we can be completely free and be with each sense. The five aggregates doesn't mean that you cut them off. It means you be with whatever arises impartially, with equanimity, with peace. So I want peace for you. And a great way to develop this way of being, this way of understanding right view, is by meditation. So focusing on the breath is a great object, whether you focus on it here or in the stomach, the rising and the falling, you just be with it and you let everything else go. And what that does is it allows your mind to become concentrated and peaceful. And it's only when your mind is concentrated and peaceful that you can see your reflection. You can reflect upon it. So just as when a water is turbulent or muddy, you can't see a reflection in it when there's a lot of waves. So you have to wait until it's calm and peaceful to be able to see clearly in the water. So this is why meditation is important, because we can't see things as they are when our mind is disturbed, filled with discursive thoughts and craving. So focusing on your breath is a great meditation. There might be other meditation. The breath is really the king of meditation methods, because the breath is something that happens by itself and you can watch it impartially. You can't control it for too long anyways. And if you can watch it and allow it to be naturally, you might need to control it for a little while to get yourself concentrated, but then eventually you want to let it go and just observe it and just feel it. And then when you can do that, the mind will become still or more still. There are infinite levels of stillness. And the more still we can become, the more clear our mirror or our water will become, and the clearer reflection of reality of life as it is. And the trick is never, ever believe that you've figured it out. Because once you believe you've figured it out, that's a view. That's a liking, that's a disliking, it's whatever, it's a view. And when you have a view, the Buddha taught to even be attached to nibbana is a wrong view. So to even be attached to the ultimate reality is wrong view. So always releasing views and always remaining humble, having the beginner's mind. So treat every experience like it's your first time, it's your first experience, and just realize that you might not have it all figured out. This is something I need to practice more. And I just want to share this with you. So thank you so much for listening and watching. I hope these reflections have been helpful for you. And you have yourself a wonderful day. May you be safe and happy. May you be healthy. May you be at peace. May you experience and know reality as it truly is. May you be filled with loving kindness. And may you share that with all beings. I love you.